Captain Taemin Park stood on the bridge of the TCA battlecruiser Indomitable, watching the stars through the main viewport when the signal came through. The communication officer turned toward him with confusion written across her face and said, "The transmission was unlike anything in their database." Taemin walked over to the communications station, where Lieutenant Su Young was adjusting her equipment with shaking hands. The signal was coming from deep space beyond any known human settlement, and the pattern was clearly artificial, but not human in origin. Dr. Ji-Won Lee hurried onto the bridge carrying her portable analysis equipment and immediately began connecting it to the ship's communication array. She had spent 15 years studying theoretical xenobiology, but this was the first time anyone had detected actual alien communication. The transmission began to resolve into recognizable patterns, and Ji-Won worked frantically to decode what appeared to be a universal mathematical language. Taemin ordered the crew to record everything while sending an encrypted message to Earth Command about their discovery. The alien signal strengthened, and suddenly the main screen filled with an image that made everyone on the bridge step backward. A creature stood before them that was vaguely humanoid but wrong in ways that made human minds struggle to process its appearance. It had elongated limbs and skin that seemed to shift between colors, while 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face focused directly on the camera. When it spoke, the voice came through clear and precise in perfect human English. The creature identified itself as Ambassador Nexval of the Vorthak hegemony and said it was speaking on behalf of the ruling council of a galactic empire that had existed for over 3,000 years. Nexval explained that the Vorthak had been observing human expansion for the past century and had concluded that humanity posed a significant threat to galactic stability. The alien ambassador described humans as dangerously aggressive and unsuitable for membership in civilized galactic society. Taemin felt his jaw clench as Nexval continued speaking in that calm, precise voice about human failings. The Vorthak had watched humans spread across 17 star systems in less than 200 years, which they considered recklessly fast expansion. They had observed human conflicts and wars and concluded that humans were inherently violent and would inevitably bring chaos to peaceful galactic civilizations. Nexval then delivered what could only be called an ultimatum. Humanity had 1 standard galactic year to withdraw all colonial settlements to within a single star system and submit to Vorthak oversight. All human military forces would be disbanded except for a small planetary defense force approved by Vorthak. Supervisors' human technology development would be restricted to levels deemed safe by Vorthak scientists. Humans would accept classification as a protected species with limited rights and freedoms. The alternative was what Nexval called necessary containment measures. Dr. Ji-Won Lee looked up from her analysis equipment with alarm and whispered that the transmission was being broadcast simultaneously to every human settlement ship and station across all 17 systems. The alien ambassador seemed to know exactly where every human outpost was located and how many people lived there. Nexval displayed a holographic star map showing precise locations of human colonies' ship movements and defensive positions. The detail was staggering and proved that the Vorthak had been watching humanity far longer and more carefully than anyone had suspected. Earth's most classified military installations were marked on the alien map along with troop numbers and weapons capabilities. Taemin realized that human space was completely transparent to these aliens, and they had been studying humanity like insects under a microscope. The ambassador concluded by saying that the Vorthak bore no ill will toward humanity, but could not permit a dangerous species to threaten galactic peace. Resistance would be met with overwhelming force that would ensure human expansion ended permanently. The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent except for the humming of ship systems. Taemin immediately ordered a priority message sent to Admiral Kyung-Ho Kim at Earth Command. While setting course for the nearest relay station, Dr. Ji-Won Lee continued analyzing the transmission data and discovered that the alien signal had somehow bypassed every human encryption and security protocol. The Vorthak had not just observed human settlements, but had gained access to human communication networks and databases within. Hours responses began arriving from human colonies across all 17 systems, confirming that everyone had received the same message. Admiral Kim convened an emergency session of the Terran Defense Council, While ordering all military units to maintain normal operations, Taemin received orders to continue patrol duties while avoiding any actions that might be interpreted as aggressive by potential alien observers. The crew of the Indomitable spent the following days in tense discussion about the implications of first contact coming in the form of an ultimatum. Dr. Ji-won Lee worked around the clock analyzing every aspect of the alien transmission, looking for weaknesses or blind spots in Vorthak surveillance. She discovered that, while the aliens knew about human locations and movements, they seemed to have misunderstood fundamental aspects of human nature. The Vorthak appeared to interpret human expansion as mindless aggression rather than curiosity and exploration. They saw human conflicts as evidence of inherent violence rather than the growing pains of a young civilization learning to work together. Most importantly, they seemed to view human diversity as a weakness rather than a source of strength. Lieutenant Su Young reported that communication traffic between human settlements had increased dramatically. As colonial governors and military commanders coordinated their responses, Captain Taemin Park found himself thinking about his younger sister, Hai Jin, who served aboard a patrol ship near the Outer Rim. He wondered if she had received the alien message and what she thought about threats from creatures that considered humans too dangerous for galactic civilization. The irony was not lost on him that aliens were threatening humanity because they considered humans threatening. Admiral Kim sent another message, ordering all ship captains to submit detailed reports about their crew's reactions to the alien ultimatum. Taemin wrote his report, carefully noting that while his crew was shocked and concerned, they remained focused on their duties and ready for whatever orders came next. He included Dr. Ji-won Lee's preliminary analysis, suggesting that the Vorthak might have significant gaps in their understanding of human psychology and motivation. The report also mentioned that the crew had begun discussing unconventional responses to alien surveillance, including ways to use the Vorthak's own information gathering against them. As the days passed, it became clear that humanity faced a choice between submission to alien oversight or war against a vastly superior galactic empire. The Vorthak had demonstrated technological capabilities far beyond anything humans possessed, and they claimed to have dominated this region of space for millennia. Yet something in Ambassador Nex Val's message suggested that despite their technological advantage, the aliens did not truly understand what they were dealing with. Dr. Ji-won Lee presented her final analysis to Captain Park, showing that the Vorthak seemed genuinely puzzled by human behavior rather than contemptuous. They appeared to view humans as a dangerous anomaly that needed to be contained rather than an inferior species to be destroyed. This suggested that the aliens might be more worried about humanity than they wanted to admit. Taemin forwarded this analysis to Admiral Kim, along with his own assessment that the crew remained loyal and determined, regardless of the odds they faced. He concluded his report by noting that if the Vorthak thought they had warned a species that would submit to threats, they had seriously misunderstood human nature. The message from Earth Command came 3 weeks after first contact. Admiral Kim had consulted with political leaders, scientists, and military strategists from across human space. Humanity's response would be delivered through diplomatic channels, but all military units should prepare for the possibility that negotiation might fail. Captain Park smiled grimly as he read the orders, knowing that his species had never been particularly good at accepting ultimatums from anyone. 6 months after the Vorthak ultimatum, a small human diplomatic vessel approached the edge of alien space, broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. The ship was called Harmony and carried only a skeleton crew led by Commander Soo-jin Yoon, who had volunteered for what many considered a suicide mission. Beside her sat diplomat Jae-ho Shin, who appeared nervous as he reviewed his notes for the 100th time that day. The Vorthak border outpost detected the human ship immediately and sent an escort of 3 alien vessels to guide it to the docking facility. Commander Yoon followed their instructions precisely while maintaining the humble demeanor that Earth Command had instructed her to project. The Vorthak clearly expected either complete surrender or desperate pleas for mercy from the primitive humans who had ignored their warning. War Commander Thal Knox greeted the human delegation at the airlock with what passed for politeness among his species. He was curious about these strange creatures who had sent such a small ship to deliver what must surely be their planet's submission. Diplomat Jae-ho Shin bowed nervously and fumbled with his translation device while introducing himself in broken Vorthak his hands. shook slightly as he presented a sealed document container and requested permission to read humanity's formal response. Thal Knox gestured for the human to proceed, while several Vorthak observers activated recording devices to capture this moment of alien capitulation. J-Ho opened the container carefully and withdrew what appeared to be an official surrender document bearing the seals of Earth's government. He began reading in a trembling voice that grew steadier as he continued through the formal diplomatic language. The document started exactly as the Vorthak expected, with acknowledgement of their superior technology and galactic authority. It praised Vorthak wisdom and expressed gratitude for their patience with humanity's primitive understanding of galactic civilization. War Commander Thal Knox relaxed as the human continued reading what was clearly a standard submission treaty, but something in the diplomat's tone began to change as he reached the middle sections of the document. J-Ho's nervous fumbling with papers became more confident, and his voice grew stronger with each paragraph. The surrender document mentioned humanity's appreciation for the generous offer of Vorthak protection and oversight. Then it took an unexpected turn, as J-Ho began describing humanity's own desire to contribute to galactic peace and understanding. His translation device seemed to work perfectly now as he delivered each word with growing precision. The Vorthak observers looked at each other with confusion as the human diplomat's demeanor shifted from frightened to merely polite. J-Ho continued reading while a smile began forming at the corners of his mouth. The document expressed humanity's eagerness to learn from Vorthak wisdom and to demonstrate human gratitude for their guidance. In return, the Terran Colonial Alliance would like to extend an invitation to the Vorthak hegemony. War Commander Thal Knox leaned forward as the human's smile grew wider and his voice became almost cheerful. Humanity invited the Vorthak to attend a demonstration of human hospitality at coordinates that would be provided separately. The document assured the aliens that they would find humanity's response both educational and illuminating. J-Ho paused dramatically before delivering the final section of what was no longer clearly a surrender document. He thanked the Vorthak for teaching humanity so much about galactic surveillance and intelligence gathering. The Terran Alliance had learned valuable lessons from watching the Vorthak watch them. As proof of humanity's gratitude, the document included detailed technical specifications that made Thal Knox's equivalent of blood freeze in his veins. The humans had somehow obtained precise locations of 17 major Vorthak military installations scattered across the hegemony ship rosters. Defensive capabilities, command structures, and supply lines were listed with accuracy that should have been impossible. Information that represented centuries of carefully guarded military secrets was laid out in neat human organizational charts. War Commander Thal Knox realized that while the Vorthak had been observing human expansion, humanity had somehow been observing them. The document concluded with coordinates for a demonstration that would begin in exactly 30 standard days. J-Ho's smile was now broad enough to show his teeth as he delivered the final lines. The Terran Colonial Alliance looked forward to showing their new Vorthak friends exactly what humanity had learned. The invitation was extended with the hope that this educational exchange would lead to better understanding between their species. Diplomat J-Ho Shin carefully returned the document to its container while maintaining that unsettling human smile. He bowed politely to the stunned Vorthak officials and expressed his pleasure at this historic first meeting. Commander Sujin Yoon appeared in the airlock doorway with the same strange smile and suggested they should return to human space to prepare for the upcoming demonstration. The Vorthak escort vessels followed the Harmony back to the border but maintained a respectful distance from the small human ship. War Commander Thal Knox immediately sent an encrypted message to Vorthak High Command describing the unexpected turn in negotiations. The humans had not surrendered but instead had somehow turned the meeting into an invitation for the Vorthak to attend some kind of event. More disturbing was the clear evidence that human intelligence gathering capabilities were far more advanced than anyone had suspected. The technical data provided by the humans was completely accurate and represented a massive security breach in Vorthak military. Systems High Command responded with orders to investigate how the humans had obtained such classified information. Security sweeps of major installations revealed sophisticated monitoring devices that had somehow escaped detection for months. CEA Technology was clearly human, but far more advanced than Vorthak analysts had believed possible. Meanwhile, aboard the Harmony commander Sujin Yoon and diplomat Jae-ho Shin reviewed their performance with satisfaction. The mission had gone exactly as planned, with the Vorthak reacting precisely as human psychologists had predicted. Earth Command had spent 6 months preparing for this moment, while alien observers watched human colonies and military installations. But the Vorthak had failed to notice human intelligence operatives studying Vorthak facilities with equal intensity. Dr. Ji-Won Lee's analysis of alien psychology had proven accurate, as the Vorthak were genuinely confused by human behavior rather than contemptuous. They expected either submission or desperate aggression, but were unprepared for humanity's calm confidence. The demonstration coordinates led to an empty region of space between Vorthak and human territory, where nothing of apparent value existed. Vorthak strategists spent weeks analyzing the location, looking for hidden human installations or defensive positions. They found nothing but empty space, which only increased their anxiety about what the humans might be planning. The 30-day countdown proceeded with mounting tension throughout Vorthak space as military commanders prepared for unknown human capabilities. Some Vorthak leaders argued for immediate preemptive strikes against human colonies before the mysterious demonstration could take place. Others insisted on waiting to see what the humans had learned before deciding on military action. War Commander Thal Knox found himself studying recordings of the human diplomat's smile and wondering what emotions it was meant to convey. Human facial expressions were difficult for Vorthak minds to interpret, but something about that smile suggested hidden knowledge. The countdown reached its final day with Vorthak fleets positioned throughout their territory, waiting for humanity's response to their ultimatum. Deep space sensors detected no human military movements, and the demonstration coordinates remained empty. But across 17 Vorthak systems, military commanders reported strange anomalies in their computer networks. Security systems began registering unauthorized access attempts that seemed to originate from within their own facilities. As the final hours approached, it became clear that whatever humanity had planned was already in motion. The demonstration would not involve human ships attacking Vorthak positions, but something far more subtle and terrifying. Vorthak High Command realized they were about to learn exactly what a species that smiled while delivering ultimatums was capable of accomplishing. The demonstration began exactly when promised across 17 Vorthak systems, simultaneously as human forces appeared from seemingly nowhere. Fleet Admiral Bo-Ra Choi led the main assault on the Vorthak fortress world of Vel Thanor with a fleet that seemed impossibly small for such an ambitious target. The Vorthak defenders mobilized their massive orbital defense platforms, expecting to crush the primitive human ships with overwhelming firepower. But the human vessels ignored the obvious targets and instead deployed what appeared to be industrial mining equipment throughout the asteroid. Belt General Keth Moran commanded the planetary defenses and watched with confusion as human forces scattered across the system. Instead of concentrating their attack on military installations, the humans seemed to be playing some incomprehensible game. On the planet's surface, Colonel Dong-Wook Han led ground forces in what appeared to be suicidal attacks against heavily fortified Vorthak positions. His troops carried weapons that seemed inadequate compared to Vorthak military technology, yet they pressed forward with determination. The human soldiers targeted seemingly random industrial sites and infrastructure nodes while avoiding the heavily defended military bases. General Keth Moran easily repelled these attacks, but found himself puzzled by human tactical choices that made no strategic sense. The pattern became clear when Chief Engineer Minjun Seo activated the devices that human forces had planted throughout the asteroid belt. The mining equipment revealed its true purpose as components of a massive gravity manipulation array that had been assembled in secret. Asteroids began moving not toward the Vorthak fleet, but toward each other, creating an artificial collision cascade. The orbital defense platforms found themselves facing a rain of asteroid fragments that bypassed all their targeting systems. Meanwhile, Colonel Han's seemingly random targets proved to be critical nodes in the planet's power distribution network as infrastructure failed across the surface. Vorthak defenders realized the humans had engineered a complete systems collapse. The same scenario played out across 16 other Vorthak worlds as human Forces demonstrated their mastery of unconventional warfare. On each world, the attacks exploited different Vorthak weaknesses with surgical precision that revealed extensive intelligence gathering. Lieutenant Hyojin Park led a team that captured a Vorthak communications facility and immediately began reprogramming their equipment. She turned Vorthak military networks against themselves by introducing human software that gave conflicting orders to alien units. Captain Insu Lim proved that human chemical explosives could be devastatingly effective when placed in the right locations within sophisticated alien technology. His demolition teams targeted power coupling systems that Vorthak engineers had considered completely secure. The fortress world of Velthanor watched its orbital defenses crumble under the weight of redirected asteroids, while planetary systems failed. General Keth Moran found his command centers going dark one by one as human forces systematically dismantled the infrastructure. The humans had not tried to win conventional battles, but instead redefined what victory meant in each engagement. Fleet Admiral Bo-Ra Choi coordinated the assault from her flagship while studying Vorthak responses to human tactics. She had spent months analyzing alien military doctrine and found it surprisingly predictable, despite their technological advantages. The Vorthak relied heavily on massive static defenses and centralized command structures that humans could exploit more. Importantly, they seemed incapable of adapting quickly to unexpected threats or unconventional attack patterns. On the industrial world of Keth Vanner, human forces, led by Captain Miran Song, demonstrated the effectiveness of economic warfare. Instead of attacking military targets, they systematically disabled the manufacturing facilities that supplied Vorthak fleets. Within hours, the planet's entire industrial capacity was offline, while Vorthak defenders struggled to understand what had happened. Major Seung-Hwan Jo coordinated attacks on Vorthak logistics networks using human-computer viruses that spread through alien supply systems. The viruses did not destroy data, but instead introduced subtle errors that made inventory management impossible. Vorthak supply officers found themselves unable to track resources or coordinate deliveries to their military units. On the research station of Velcorium, Dr. Yan Woo Kim led a team that infiltrated Vorthak scientific databases. They planted human analysis programs that began redirecting Vorthak research efforts toward projects that would benefit humanity. The aliens continued their work, unaware that their discoveries were being transmitted to human scientists. Commander Jun-Ho Lee proved that human boarding tactics could overcome superior Vorthak technology through surprise and adaptability. His Marines captured key Vorthak vessels by exploiting design flaws that alien engineers had never considered weaknesses. The captured ships were turned against their own fleets using human tactics that confused Vorthak commanders. Captain Hyun-Soo Park led orbital strikes against Vorthak communication relays using modified human mining ships. The attacks severed connections between Vorthak military units while human hackers took control of their networks. Isolated Vorthak forces found themselves receiving orders from human commanders who understood their weaknesses. On every battlefield, human forces demonstrated that technological superiority meant nothing without tactical flexibility. Vorthak weapons were more powerful, but human soldiers were more creative in finding ways to neutralize them. The aliens had prepared for conventional warfare, but found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow expected patterns. General Keth Moran watched his supposedly impregnable fortress world fall apart under the weight of human ingenuity. The orbital platforms that should have protected the planet became useless against weapons made from redirected space. Debris ground installations failed not because of superior firepower, but because humans understood how complex systems could be disrupted. Lieutenant Colonel Sang-Min Yu coordinated the final phase of the assault as Vorthak. Resistance crumbled across multiple systems. His forces had not destroyed the alien military, but instead demonstrated that Vorthak defenses were based on flawed assumptions. The aliens had built their strategy around technological dominance without considering that humans might find ways around their advantages. As the demonstration reached its conclusion, human forces began withdrawing from Vorthak systems as suddenly as they had appeared. They left behind evidence of their capabilities while avoiding unnecessary destruction of alien civilian populations. The message was clear to any Vorthak commander capable of understanding it. Humanity possessed the ability to dismantle Vorthak military power whenever they chose to do so. Fleet Admiral Bora Choi sent a final transmission to General Keth Moran, offering medical assistance for wounded Vorthak personnel. The gesture was typically human combining mercy with a reminder of who had won the engagement. War Commander Thal Knox received reports from all 17 attacked systems describing similar patterns of human tactical superiority. Each assault had been perfectly tailored to exploit specific weaknesses in Vorthak defenses. The humans had studied alien military doctrine more thoroughly than the Vorthak understood it themselves. Most disturbing was the realization that humanity had demonstrated restraint in their attacks. The humans could have caused far more damage, but chose to limit their destruction to military targets. This suggested that the demonstration was exactly that, a display of capability rather than an attempt at conquest. Vorthak High Command found itself facing an enemy that fought by completely different rules than any previous opponent. The humans had turned the Vorthak's own surveillance against them while developing countermeasures for every alien advantage. The 30-day demonstration period ended with human forces vanishing as mysteriously as they had appeared, but the Vorthak military would never again assume that technological superiority guaranteed victory against these strange creatures who smiled while delivering ultimatums. Supreme War Leader Vex Thorian personally led the largest fleet in Vorthak history toward Earth, carrying the anger of an empire that had never known defeat. 3,000 warships accompanied him, representing military forces gathered from across the hegemony to end the human threat permanently. The fleet moved through space like an unstoppable tide of destruction, designed to demonstrate Vorthak power to the entire galaxy. Any species that dared challenge the hegemony would witness the complete extinction of humanity as a warning to others. As the Armada approached Sol System, the Vorthak expected desperate human resistance and massive defensive installations. Instead, they found the outer planets seemingly abandoned with no military fleets rising to meet their advance. Jupiter and Saturn continued their ancient orbits, while Mars appeared to have only civilian traffic moving between its installations. Earth itself showed no signs of military preparation, despite surely knowing that the largest invasion force in galactic history was approaching. Dr. Yun-Su Kang monitored the alien advance from deep within the Antarctic Command Complex, where humanity's final preparations were taking place. She coordinated with defense installations across the solar system while maintaining the illusion that Earth was helpless. The plan required perfect timing and absolute faith in human engineering capabilities that had never been tested on this scale. Supreme War Leader Vex Thorian felt satisfaction as his fleet entered Earth's solar system without encountering any meaningful resistance. The humans had demonstrated tactical cleverness in their previous attacks, but seemed to have no answer for overwhelming force. His tactical officers reported that human installations were broadcasting surrender requests on multiple frequencies. The primitive species had finally understood that their brief moment of defiance was over. Captain Jin Ryu waited in her concealed control station as Vorthak ships passed the orbit of Pluto. Her responsibility was coordinating Project Prometheus, which had taken months to implement across the entire solar system. Human installations throughout the system appeared to be normal civilian facilities, but each one concealed weapons technology. The Vorthak fleet continued inward past Neptune and Uranus, while scanning for human military forces that did not seem to exist. Supreme War Leader Vex Thorian began preparing his demand for Earth's unconditional surrender. He would address the human leaders personally to ensure they understood the futility of further resistance. President Chan Ho Bei received the alien communication request while standing in the command center beneath Sol. His response was broadcast across all frequencies, so that every ship in the Vorthak fleet could witness humanity's final moment. Instead of surrender, he smiled with the same expression that had unnerved War Commander Thal Knox months earlier. President Bei thanked the Supreme War Leader for providing humanity with such an excellent education about galactic warfare. The Vorthak had taught humans valuable lessons about technology strategy and the importance of understanding one's enemies. As a gesture of gratitude, Earth would now demonstrate what humanity had learned from their alien teachers. The outer planets revealed their true nature as the Vorthak fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Jupiter's moons launched controlled solar flares that had been redirected using gravity manipulation technology. The miniature stars moved through space like guided weapons that bypassed all conventional defenses. Saturn's rings activated as a sophisticated particle accelerator system that turned space debris into relativistic projectiles. The beautiful ice crystals became deadly weapons that struck Vorthak ships at impossible velocities. Mars revealed itself as a planet-wide electromagnetic pulse generator that disabled alien electronics across multiple ships. The Red Planet had been secretly converted into the largest weapon ever constructed by human hands. Dr. Young-Ho Nam coordinated the final surprise from his laboratory aboard the space station Olympus. He had spent months studying captured Vorthak technology and developing software that could interface with alien systems. As the enemy fleet found itself trapped in an impossible maze of weaponized celestial mechanics, he activated his masterpiece. Every Vorthak vessel simultaneously began receiving new orders transmitted directly through their own communication networks. The alien ships discovered that their computers were now running human software designed specifically for this moment. Navigation systems guided Vorthak vessels into collision courses with each other, while weapons targeted their own support ships. Supreme War Leader Vex Thorian watched in horror as his massive fleet began destroying itself under the influence of human programming. The 3,000 ships that should have easily conquered Earth were now following orders from the planet they had come to attack. Captain Jin-Ah Ryu broadcast a message to the alien fleet, explaining that Earth's hospitality included helping lost visitors find their way. The Vorthak ships were welcome to stay as long as they followed proper procedures and obeyed local traffic control. Alien commanders found their vessels responding to human flight controllers, who guided them into neat formations around Earth. The mighty invasion fleet had become an involuntary honor guard for the planet they had intended to destroy. President Chan Ho-Bei addressed Supreme War Leader Vex Thorian directly, while Vorthak ships drifted helplessly in Earth orbit. He explained that humanity bore no ill will toward the Vorthak people and had no desire for unnecessary destruction. The demonstration was simply meant to clarify the new relationship between their species. Earth was prepared to discuss terms for Vorthak withdrawal from human space and the establishment of proper diplomatic relations. Supreme War Leader Vex Thorian realized that his empire's 3,000-year dominance had ended in a single battle. The humans had not defeated Vorthak technology, but had instead made it irrelevant. Through superior understanding, his fleet was intact but completely under human control, with no way to break free from the alien software. Dr. Yun-Su Kang emerged from the Antarctic complex to witness the Vorthak fleet hanging motionless above Earth, like metallic ornaments. The most powerful military force in galactic history had been neutralized without firing a single shot. Human children looked up at the alien ships with curiosity rather than fear, while their parents explained that the visitors were learning new rules. Admiral Kyung-Ho Kim coordinated the processing of 3,000 Vorthak vessels, now under human authority. Each ship would be studied carefully to understand alien technology, while their crews received lessons in human hospitality. The Vorthak warriors who had come to destroy Earth found themselves guests in a civilization that treated enemies as potential friends. Captain Taemin Park arrived from the Outer Rim with his sister Hee-Jin to witness the conclusion of humanity's greatest victory. The aliens who had demanded human submission were now completely dependent on human mercy for their survival. Yet Earth continued broadcasting messages of friendship and offers of assistance to any Vorthak personnel who needed help. Dr. Jiwon Lee studied the psychological impact of defeat on Vorthak commanders who had never experienced military failure. She found that many aliens were struggling to understand how their overwhelming advantage had become total helplessness. The answer lay in fundamental differences between human and Vorthak approaches to problem solving. While aliens perfected existing technology, humans constantly developed new ways to make technology irrelevant. President Chan Ho-Bei concluded his address to the galaxy by explaining that Earth sought partnership rather than conquest. The Vorthak fleet would be returned to alien space once proper agreements were reached, but the galaxy should understand that humanity would defend itself against any future threats with whatever methods proved necessary. The message was received by dozens of species across the galaxy who began to reconsider their assumptions about the strange creatures from Earth. Supreme War Leader Vex Thorian found. Himself a prisoner aboard his own flagship, while human technicians studied Vorthak systems. He had led the greatest military force in history only to discover that humans fought wars by redefining what warfare meant. The 3,000 ships that should have brought glory to the Vorthak Empire instead marked the end of their dominance. Earth hung below them, beautiful and unconquered, while human voices offered friendship to the aliens who had come to destroy them. 3 months after the Battle of Seoul, the galaxy had become a very different place as the Vorthak hegemony reorganized under human guidance. Admiral Kyung-ho Kim now served as Earth's representative to the newly formed Galactic Cooperative Council, where former alien territories governed themselves. The Vorthak people had been relocated to a single system where they could rebuild their civilization with human advisors, providing assistance. Former war leader Vex Thorian worked alongside Colonel Dong-wook Han to establish new forms of government that emphasized cooperation over domination. Ambassador Won-shik Choi met with representatives from dozens of species that had lived under Vorthak rule for centuries. Many aliens were still trying to understand how a primitive species had completely transformed galactic politics in less than 2 years. The answer lay in fundamental misunderstandings about human nature that had led the Vorthak to catastrophic miscalculations. Dr. Ji-won Lee explained to a gathering of xenobiologists that aliens had consistently misinterpreted human behaviors. They saw human expansion as mindless aggression when it was actually curiosity and the drive to explore. Human conflicts were viewed as evidence of inherent violence rather than the natural growing pains of a young civilization. Most importantly, aliens had interpreted human diversity as weakness when it was actually humanity's greatest strength. Captain Taemin Park commanded the flagship New Horizon as it prepared for humanity's first mission to unexplored galactic regions. Dozens of species had requested human protection or partnership after witnessing the fate of the Vorthak Empire. The galaxy that had once sought to contain humanity now looked to Earth for leadership and guidance. President Chan Ho-bae addressed the Galactic Council from his office in Seoul. While alien representatives listened respectfully, he explained that humanity had never desired conquest, but would not tolerate threats to human freedom or safety. The Vorthak had learned this lesson at great cost, but other species could choose cooperation over confrontation. Earth offered friendship and partnership to any civilization willing to treat humans as equals. Dr. Young-ho Nam continued his research into alien computer systems while developing new defensive technologies. His work had proven that human software could interface with any known alien technology given sufficient time and analysis. Galaxy's most advanced civilizations found their electronics vulnerable to human programming techniques. This gave humanity a significant advantage in any future conflicts with hostile species. Lieutenant Hye-jin Park served aboard the exploration vessel Discovery as it mapped former Vorthak territories. She documented dozens of species that had been suppressed under alien rule and were now free to develop their own cultures. Many of these civilizations expressed gratitude to humanity for ending thousands of years of forced submission. Some requested human advisors to help them establish new forms of government based on cooperation rather than domination. Commander Soo Jin-yoon piloted diplomatic missions to species that remained suspicious of human intentions. Her calm demeanor and genuine offers of friendship gradually overcame alien fears about human aggression. She carried the same message to every species that humanity sought: partners, not subjects in building a better galaxy. The human smile that had once unnerved the Vorthak became a symbol of friendship throughout known space. Captain In-soo Lim led reconstruction efforts on former Vorthak worlds, helping aliens rebuild infrastructure damaged during the transition. His teams worked alongside alien engineers to create new technologies that combined human innovation with alien knowledge. The partnership produced advances that neither species could have achieved independently. These collaborative projects became models for future cooperation between humans and other civilizations. Dr. Yoon-soo Kang coordinated Earth's planetary defense systems while monitoring potential threats from unexplored regions. Her work had proven that entire solar systems could be converted into defensive weapons given sufficient preparation. Any hostile force approaching human space would face the same fate as the Vorthak invasion fleet. But her systems were designed to disable rather than destroy, allowing for negotiation with reasonable opponent's fleet Admiral Bora Choi commanded human fleets patrolling the borders of former Vorthak space. Her ships carried the same message that had convinced the Vorthak to surrender complete human confidence, backed by overwhelming capability alien. Species learned that humans preferred diplomacy, but were prepared for any alternative that enemies might choose. The combination of friendliness and strength made humanity respected throughout the galaxy. Major Seung-hwan, Zhou established the Galactic Intelligence Service to monitor potential threats while maintaining peaceful relations. His organization gathered information about hostile species while sharing beneficial technologies with friendly civilizations. The network prevented conflicts by identifying problems before they escalated into military confrontations. Human intelligence capabilities had proven superior to those of species with thousands of years. More experience. Captain Mi Ren-song commanded economic development projects that helped former Vorthak subjects establish independent trade networks. Her work demonstrated that cooperation created more prosperity than the tribute systems used by the old empire. Alien species discovered that partnership with humans produced benefits far exceeding what they had gained under Vorthak rule. Economic success made human leadership popular even among species that had initially feared Earth's growing influence. Ambassador Jae-ho Shin continued his diplomatic missions carrying humanity's message of friendship to the farthest reaches of known space. His ability to combine courtesy with subtle demonstrations of human power made him an effective representative. Alien leaders learned to respect the human diplomat who smiled while discussing topics that could determine their species' future. The same expression that had unsettled War Commander Thal Nox now reassured aliens seeking human protection as Captain Park's flagship prepared for its mission to unexplored sectors. He received a message from deep space. Another species claiming to represent an even larger galactic empire demanded that humanity submit to their authority. The message included the same threats and ultimatums that the Vorthak had delivered too. Years earlier, Park's response was transmitted immediately without consulting Earth Command or requesting additional instructions. He simply replied that the message had been received and understood by human authorities. The exploration fleet would arrive at the aliens' coordinates shortly to discuss the matter in person. His tone was polite and friendly, while carrying the same confidence that had characterized all human diplomatic communications. The alien empire would soon learn what others had discovered about the species that answered warnings with smiles. Earth had become the center of a galactic civilization that spanned dozens of species and hundreds of star systems. The blue planet that had once seemed helpless against alien threats now coordinated the activities of multiple civilizations. Human cities glowed with technologies contributed by grateful alien partners, while space stations hosted diplomatic conferences. The species that had been warned to limit themselves to a single star system now guided the development of entire galactic regions. President Chun Ho-bae delivered his final address to the Galactic Council, while representatives from 50 species listened. He reminded them that humanity had initially sought only the right to exist and expand according to their own choices. The Vorthak had offered protection and oversight, but humans preferred freedom and self-determination. Any species that respected human independence would find Earth a generous and reliable partner. But those who mistook human kindness for weakness would discover their error just as the Vorthak had learned. The galaxy had been transformed by contact with a species that refused to accept limitations imposed by others. Humans had proven that technological superiority meant nothing without the flexibility to adapt and the wisdom to understand opponents. The warning delivered by Ambassador Nex Val had been intended to contain a dangerous species. Instead, it had awakened a civilization that would reshape galactic politics according to principles of cooperation and mutual respect. Captain Park smiled as he read the final mission briefings, while his ship prepared to meet humanity's next challenge. The galaxy was full of species that considered humans too dangerous for civilized society. Earth would continue proving them right while demonstrating that human danger came with human friendship for those wise enough to accept both.